Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new camp build. Today we are using the shipping containers that were added to the atomic shop last week, and I've been wanting something like this for quite a while, so really happy to get to use them. So let's jump to this. Okay, so yeah, these things were added to the atomic shop last week, and they're pretty cool on the whole. There have a few shortcomings that we'll get to in a minute, but I'm quite happy to have them. I've wanted to use shipping containers in a build for quite a long while, so it's nice to get to do this. So let's have a little look at the map and see where we are first off. Up in the Savage Divide, smack in the middle today, there's the container shack right next to the Central Mountain Lookout. Very, very close to that, actually. There's Pleasant Valley Station just over the way there, and down here we have the White Spring. So yeah, really cool spot, about as central as you're going to get. This spot here is actually where the nukes get launched when you launch from Silo A. So really, really good spot to view a nuke launch if you happen to be at your camp at the right time. So, as per usual, we'll start with a foundation. In this case, the shipping containers are actually quite large and flat. So if you've got flat ground, you wouldn't need a foundation. But obviously it's rather less than flat here, so the foundation will mean it sits a lot better, and we don't have to deal with the shipping containers clipping through the ground and having rocks and all manner of stuff sticking up through the bottom of them. So let's get this carefully positioned, figure out just where I want it. Kind of want to follow the line that's sort of in front of us here. There's kind of a ridge line almost in the ground before it drops down to that little area by the cliff edge. So we're going to use that. There we go. We're on 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment. We're going to have to add a few more foundations in just a moment, as these shipping containers are really quite large, so we're going to need quite a bit of space for them. So first up, we'll use one of the closed ones. These are under the miscellaneous structures section, and get this lined up with the left-hand edge. Unfortunately, there is one slight issue, which is that this rock here at the back is sticking through a bit too much of my foundation, so I want to push that back a little further than I can. So we'll adjust this a little bit, pop that up a little bit. There we go, make some adjustments there. That's better. Not a lot more space, but it's enough to make a difference. So I'm going to lift these foundations up to match it. Snap that one back in. There we go. And I'm actually going to leave this front row here a little bit lower down, just to add a little bit of variety to the camp. So we don't need the space for the shipping containers just yet. There we go. This is one of the closed ones. We'll get this in first. And we'll carefully line it up with the edge of the foundation. There's posts on each corner of these shipping containers, you can see there. Those actually stick out ever so slightly further than the rest of the shipping container, so I'm using those to line it up with. Get those right on the edge. We'll shunt it a bit further back in a minute. There are a couple of things about these shipping containers that I would like to have seen Bethesda do differently, I have to admit. I'm really happy to have them, they're really, really cool. But we've got a closed version and an open version, and we've only got them in yellow. So we would have liked to have seen more colours, and I'd have liked to have seen a version that is open at both ends, so that we can basically put multiple ones together to create larger structures if we wanted. I would also have liked to have seen snappable end walls that function as either a closed wall or as a door, possibly two doors, so that you can open either side depending on which one you use. And then it would give us a bit more flexibility with the shipping containers. But as it is, we've just got an open one and a closed one. I say the open one's only open at one end, so it works quite well nonetheless. But a little more variety would have been nice, I think. Either way, we'll get these lined up. It's not too bad to line these up. They're actually reasonably sort of cooperative about moving around. At least on foundations they are anyway. And obviously you've got the big corner posts there that make it nice and easy to line things up with as well. Which is helpful because larger objects like this can sometimes be a bit of a pig to move around, particularly with big prefabs. This is actually quite simple, so it's not too bad really. It's a little bit wonky there though, so we'll make some adjustments. So dropping an open one on top of the closed one here, so we have a bit more of an interesting shape and a couple of internal spaces. And now we need to get up to the top. Here we run into another slight snag with them. That is, these shipping containers don't match up to the size of any of the other building pieces. They are wider than the foundations, and they are taller than the stairs and the walls. The upshot being, if you want to get up there, you have a little bit of a problem. The stairs don't quite reach. Solution on this occasion is to flamethrower them, as a word I'm struggling with, and we'll destroy them that way, which happens very quickly, which is slightly worrying. And then we're just going to snap the floor straight through them, which, as it turns out, works just fine. So I'm going to switch that over to a larger one. Snap that through. Flip that around. Come on. Snap you upwards odd. There we go. Nice. And now we can get up there. Now we use this as a kind of balcony here. Obviously, everything's a little off kilter and it doesn't quite fit, which is kind of annoying. You could carefully line things up so they fit a little better, I think. But it's not quite ideal. But we are going to go scrappy with this, so in that regard, it will work just fine. Let's get some support for this little balcony area in place using these posts. Use that floor on the edge there just to force it to snap to the corners, because otherwise it won't. And there we go. Now we can repair these shipping containers. Nice. Now we have a slight problem here as well, in that this one doesn't want to repair. You see the repair option there is greyed out at the bottom. Fortunately, it's not actually a problem, it's just the UI wigging out for some weird reason. So notice when I cycle the UI in just a second, there we go, now it's no longer greyed out. So at this point we can just stick that back and then repair it. You might have to fully close the building menu and then reopen it again, worst case scenario, but it should work doing that. Again, depending on how much clipping there is going on there, just how far through that shipping container it clips, you may have to make some adjustments, but for this one it certainly seemed to work. So, as I say, we don't have a door that we can snap onto the front of this shipping container, and I do want one because it's going to be our living space. Fortunately, the gap here between those two corner posts is exactly the width of a foundation, so I'm definitely willing to give Bethesda this one. That works. So we can kind of float a wooden wall on the end here. So we'll very carefully position this foundation in, and now we can add a doorway. Now this is where I made a mistake. Using a doorway means I can actually remove the foundation. Obviously it's back to front there. I'd have needed a foundation underneath to do that, but I can't move the foundations that I left behind because the shipping container will go then. So we'll have to have it backwards. But the big mistake I made was that I didn't put the door on before I took the foundation away. Once that wall is floating and you've moved the foundation, you can no longer snap a door to it, so you need to do that early. Normally I make putting doors in the very last thing I do because they get in the way during the decoration phase. And you have to open them and close them, come out the menu, go into the menu, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of annoying. But in this case, I should have done it first so that I could actually have one. But we worked around it in the end anyway. So, on this top section, we're going to do it a little bit differently, as I'm not going to be able to get a foundation up here. And we're going to use some chain link. This is going to be a crafting room anyway, so it's not the end of the world that it's a bit open. But I would have liked a door downstairs, I have to admit. We'll get these fitted in quite nicely. They work quite well. There we go. It's a little bit wonky, so let's make a little adjustment. And then we can just snap this back in. They are quite forgiving, these chain link fences. They work quite well for things like that. I do wish they had a little bit more ability to put wall decorations on, though. Because then you could sort of dress them up a little bit more, and that'd be nice. We worked around it in the end, though. So, next up, I want to put a fence around the top section here, because this is going to be an upper balcony, and it's best if we don't fall off. As you see, this thick sort of bar at the edge actually allows fences to snap a little bit down through it. They'll clip down a little bit, which means they don't look like they're just kind of stuck on the thing so much. And that actually works quite well. They look a lot better that way. Otherwise, they just kind of look weirdly unsupported. So, quite nice the way this one worked, and everything snaps to it quite nicely as well. So, heading downstairs, we're nearly there. We'll get some railings around the outside of this one. I decided to pull this foundation off here just because it makes it a little bit more of an interesting shape, and I didn't need that much extra space out here anyway. There we go. All the way around. Not quite sure what I'm doing here. Don't really like the look of this yet. So initially, snapped a staircase here to try and figure out how we're going to access the main foundation. But we kind of drop down before we come back up there. And I don't really like the way that pathing works. That little dip kind of bugs me. It just feels off. So we're going to put an extra foundation in there, clip it through the ground, so we have a nice smooth approach to the camp there from the slope on the right. Now we'll put some railings there as well, and we've got a nice little entrance. So last couple of things to do before we decorate and head on to the tour. Obviously the sides of these shipping containers are very, very large and very, very yellow. So we're going to keep with the scrappy vibe. We're going to just break up that very, very obnoxious colour a little bit. And put some reverse junk fences up against it, just to make it a little bit more organic, a little bit more interesting, and make the whole thing a little busier, which always looks better in my opinion anyway. So a little bit of positioning, we'll get some reverse junk fences up against this. They sit pretty darn close to the edge of the containers, which is nice. They won't clip through that bottom edge, which is not massively surprising, but they'd end up floating probably if they tried to do that anyway, so it does look reasonably good like this. Unless you really rub your nose in it, you'll be fine. You won't be able to tell there's a gap on the other side, so that's good. Now, it's only so close to the stairs on the right I can get here, so we're just going to nudge this one all the way across as far as we can. A little bit of fine-tuning required. Very, very slowly move these into place. There we go. And we will just nudge this one across as well. This one was much easier. Just make sure these line up, look neat and tidy, before I pile a load of junk in front of them in the decoration phase. And one last one on the end. Again, we're just going to alternate the textures here. Sitting quite nicely, that one. That went quite well. Nice and close to the edge, just to dress that up, make it look a little bit more interesting. Yeah. Much less obnoxiously yellow. It's obnoxiously brown instead. So coming around this side, we're going to carry on that principle. We're going to use some reverse junk fences on the outside here. On this occasion, we're just going to pop them up so they sit on the edge of the foundation a little bit. It does kind of mean they're floating, but I'm going to put all my crops out this side, so you won't be able to tell anyway, which is the main thing. And it means they reach a bit further up the side of the shipping container as well, which just looks a bit better from further away. You can see they almost reach that bar there, and it looks a lot neater. So I've added an extra one, but I'm going to skip over that because I've already done it 5 times. And we'll add these larger ones just next to it here, because there's a little dip in the ground there that just doesn't quite look right. And it would really highlight the fact that the fences were floating even more. So we can use these large ones to hide that. And it also changes up the shape a little bit, makes the thing a bit more interesting to look at. But a bit of careful positioning will get this in. Obviously the thing's kind of awkward in its size and shape and things, so it's one of the reasons I don't use this particular junk fence that often. But on this occasion, we use 2 of them and just kind of create a curved surface here that just makes the whole thing a little bit more interesting, makes it a bit of a different shape. They sit quite well together, these things. Not perfectly, but well enough considering it's a scrappy look we're going for. But there we go. Should about do it. And we'll just stick another couple of regular railings on this corner just to wrap things up and make it look neat and tidy. Nice. I'll dress up the remaining surface so somewhat during the decoration phase. So one last thing I want to do to again break up the otherwise square shape just a little bit more. I'm going to stick some guard posts on the top here. Just line those up with the center if I can. A little bit of eyeballing required, but that works. Nice. Make sure it's not sticking out too far. Yep, we're good. And we'll stick another one at this end here. Up and down, just to make sure I can see what I'm doing. Again, carefully center that one. A little bit off position there, so we'll adjust it. Nice. And we're going to just stick some barbed wire fences on the side here, which again will snap through that little thick bar at the edge there quite nicely. Turns out they're just the right length as well. We use 3 sections effectively, or 1.5, depending on how you look at it, and it fits perfectly. So I've got that one in there. There we go. And one more. Nice. Good place for a turreted placement, this, if you need one. So, let's decorate and have a look at the tour. Okay then, so tour time. I quite like how this has come out. Really nice and scrappy. We've dressed things up quite nicely. Really good location, this, for a small-ish camp build. This is some weird hybrid of small and large in some ways, but it works quite nicely, this. Got a load of crops out front just to dress it up a bit, and because crops are always useful. You can see for the other blank pieces of the shipping containers that I hadn't adjusted before, done anything to, I've put some of the window boards on there from the Halloween event, and a couple of flags as well to break those up a little bit further. Looks alright. A couple of scarecrows just in case the Blood Eagles decide to come over from the tower behind us here and start shooting my camp up. They do occasionally. The bog out front there, and a shelter entrance just by the welcome home sign as well. Head on in. Use the punji board just to keep any Blood Eagles from running right into the middle of my camp. Loads of bits of decoration around to dress up this open area here, but with plenty of pathing as well. This little railing out front here, this little gantry-way, is from the Vault-Tec set that was in the Atomic Shop a while back. It turned out it just randomly happened to snap over the doorway when I was cycling through the menus, so I kind of liked how it looked. Decided to use the one on a corner just to make the entrance a bit more interesting. And yeah, looks alright. Scrappy, improvised, but it works. Hey, it just snaps straight onto the door nice and easily, so that was a win. As we can see, I couldn't get a door on here, so I put some curtains over it instead. We're going to have to kind of run through. There we go. As, unfortunately, you can't pass through that gap when you're walking. It's just not very convenient, but it works. So with this place, I've gone with a similar sort of approach to how I would go with the mobile home trailer thing. And basically dressed up the walls as much as possible. It just kind of works to break up a bright surface and a dirty surface as well. We've gone with a very improvised bed, which I haven't done in a while. And it does work quite well for this kind of scrappy build. So you've gone for lots of comic book stuff in here for this one, and really dressed it up as much as I can. A bobblehead stand in the corner that fit quite nicely on the end there. Made things a bit more interesting. Not done that in a while either, so that's fun. And got a couple of cage lights hanging from those floors that clip through, because if they're going to be there, we might as well lean into it. Got a little sitting area, somewhere to hang out, listen to the radio, read a few comics, and a little cooking station in the corner as well. If there was a door on here, that would mean the place would stay nice and warm, although you might have a slight smoke issue with the chimney there, but, you know, we can't have everything, can we? So we'll pop back through there, and have a little look around the front here. A couple of bits and pieces out the front here, just to kind of indicate the way around to where my vendors are, which we'll see in just a moment. A few oil lanterns just to keep the place illuminated in the evening. This area was actually the hardest for me to decorate, because I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do with it. So I knew I wanted a seating area here, because if we look over this corner here, just between the corner and the collectron there, you can just about see where the nukes launch from. So I wanted to be able to view that from here. We've got another one up top as well, that's cool. Got a big area at the end here, so I dropped the hot tub in and just tucked the symptomatic in the corner. Got that thing as far back as I could, took the railing off to do it, which is a bit awkward, but we managed. Forgot to wire this up properly, but again, you can see I've really gone to town dressing up the surface of the shipping containers as well, just to break up that really, really bold colour a bit. Heading up to the top, got a little counter here with my vendors on it. A Blue Ridge fella hanging out, a flag on the front. And out here on top of the front shipping container, we've got our brewing and chemistry stations, because that sort of job is best done outside, where you've still got some fresh air. And also I couldn't fit them inside the shipping container either, so there's that. So yeah, lots of little bits of decoration up here, just to give it a nice kind of organic look. Quite happy with how this has come out. The stuff on the top there just breaks up the shape a little bit more, makes it a bit more interesting and organic to look at. Managed to squeeze that punch card machine in as well. Quite nice spot for it there, works quite well. Have a little look at our crafting space. Again, I put loads of stuff on the wall here just to kind of break up the surfaces, make it interesting to look at, make it look busy and scrappy, and yeah, quite like how it came out. Fairly standard power armor station at the end for me. A couple of flags on the wall there. Use the high-tech one because it needs slightly less space, or it leaves a little bit more space rather for the rest of the stuff I wanted to put in here. And yeah, quite happy with how that looks. Wouldn't mind a different colour for that power armor station though, as everything is very yellow in there. But nonetheless, nice little crafting space. Happy with how that one looks. The rubber mat down as well, just to make that a bit more interesting. Really nice view from up here. Nice little area to sit on the top there and watch the nukes launch as well, should you so desire. A few extra posters on the left here as well. Nice. A little swing downstairs. Do wish I'd remembered to power up that open sign, but had to do it after the fact. Oh well. Yeah, nice little scrappy camp. Nice view out over the western half of the map towards the mire and the cranberry bog. Nice little spot to sit and watch nukes launch from. It's a good combo of things, this spot. It's quite nice. So the ground's a bit uneven and a bit difficult to work with, but the foundations obviously worked around that quite nicely with the ship containers. We wound up with a nice scrappy build. So, do hope you folks like this one. I certainly did, and think I'll be here for a little while. Might have to get some new camp slots now. If you did like the video, please do consider dropping subs and likes for me. I very, very much appreciate it. Down below the video, you can find my social media links, the merch store, and channel memberships as well, if you're interested in supporting the channel that way. Massive thank you to everyone who's done that already. It really, really helps out. I very much appreciate it. And if you get a chance to join us for live streams as well, we are, of course, playing Fallout 76 and Ghostwire Tokyo as well, which is a lot of fun. So I hope you join us for that. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.